No place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. But the bottom line is that the Trump rally was a rally that he should have been able to be conducted peacefully without any problem. But the idea that there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's just not appropriate. And everybody must condemn it.
Meanwhile, world leaders have condemned the rally shooting as a tragedy for democracy. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer said he was appalled at the shooting. US Vice President Kamala Harris said, "We're relieved that he's not seriously injured," while billionaire Elon Musk said, "I fully endorse President Trump and hope his rapid recovery." And Ivanka Trump also shared a message for her father, saying she's grateful to the Secret Services. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage says the problem is liberal intolerance.
New left liberal elite have this sort of form of intellectual superiority where they believe they're better human beings than those on the centre right. And that is what's run through media, education, and that is at the heart of this problem, liberal intolerance. And I did say to him, if I hadn't been elected to Parliament, I'd be with him this weekend. So I would have been at that rally if I decided not to stand for Parliament. But I've now decided, Tom, in the light of what's happened, that I will fly out to America this week. I will go and see my friend, and I'll do it. I'll listen to his acceptance speech at the convention on Thursday, and I'll do it not just as a friend, but I'll do it because we have to stand up for democracy. We have to stand up for people to be able to campaign. If we don't, we're absolutely sunk.
In other news, David Lammy has called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza during his first trip to the Middle East since becoming Foreign Secretary. It comes as an Israeli airstrike targeted Hamas military chief Mohammed Deif, described as a mastermind behind the October 7th attack. The airstrike hit the southern city of Khan Yunis. The Hamas-run health ministry claim up to 90 people have died during the attacks. It remains unclear whether the military chief and other senior leaders were killed in the attacks. All eyes are on England tonight as they face Spain in the final of the European Championships in Berlin. Ahead of the big game, Sir Keir Starmer has praised England's footballers, saying they've made the country proud. In a letter to Gareth Southgate and the team, the Prime Minister emphasised their graft and hard work and wished them the very best. Gareth Southgate and his players are hoping to win England's first trophy since 1966 and go down in legend.
I'm not a believer in fairy tales, but I am a believer in dreams. And we've had big dreams. We've felt the need and the importance of that. But then, you have to make those things happen.
And the Princess of Wales will attend the men's Wimbledon final today, while Prince William's in Berlin to watch England in the Euro 2024 final. Princess Catherine will present either Novak Djokovic or Carlos Alcaraz with the trophy on Central Court. It will be her second public appearance following her cancer diagnosis. She made a brief return to the public spotlight last month at Trooping the Colour. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Sophia Wensler, more in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much, Sophia. Now, let's get straight into today's stories. It's a huge news day for you. Political violence has returned to America. Donald Trump was shot during an attempted assassination at a rally in Pennsylvania. Here is the moment shots rang through the rally and Trump was quickly, yet defiantly, pulled off stage by Secret Service.
If you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Absolutely shocking scenes. It's no exaggeration to say he was centimetres away from death there. Trump is now released from hospital and returning home, is said to be doing well. In a statement, he said he felt the bullet rip through his ear. Joining me now to bring us up to date on this breaking story, remember this happened in the early hours, our time, 6 o'clock in America time, is GB News reporter Ray Addison. Ray, many of us in this country waking up to this news this morning, absolutely shocking, could not believe, still not sinking in that it was another assassination attempt on American president. Can you bring us up to date on what's happening, please?
Yeah, we know that. I mean, I was woken up this morning by my wife. I thought it was some sort of terrible joke when she told me, and then obviously quickly got myself up to date. It happened around 11 o'clock UK time for us last night, so many people not picking up on that immediately as it happened. We know that he's now safely back at one of his homes. Mixed reports on that. Some people saying Trump Tower, other people saying a property in New Jersey. I don't think that's strange. I think, you know, after an assassination attempt like this, Secret Service not going to be giving clear information on where the former president is. We know that he was struck, we believe, once in the right ear. In that dramatic footage that we're seeing there, we see his hand go up, he grabs his right ear, there's blood there, and he quickly falls to the ground. That's what obviously he is trained to do in these situations. But then again, as the security services bundle on top of him, he very defiantly rises to his feet. We're told that he tried then to get to the microphone. He wanted to continue. We've actually seen that in the past from another assassination attempt many years ago. That has actually happened. Protocols obviously prevent that now. But he wanted to carry on. He raised his fist and he shouted, "Fight, fight, fight." And I think, and many other people are saying, this is the moment that he won the 2024
It's a very iconic image with a huge American flag in the background behind him, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think, you know, it shows when you compare and contrast him to President Biden. Obviously, there's been a lot of critique of Biden at the moment in recent times following that debate with Donald Trump. And I think when you just look at those two men and take their politics to one side, whatever you might think of their politics, when you just look at the strength that was shown by Donald Trump there and that never die attitude, that won't quit attitude, he wants to carry on, and the challenges that he's faced in the last year alone, the legal challenges and so forth, and he is not a quitter and he just keeps going.
Regardless of what you think of the politics, the fact that he stood up in the face of terrorism. Talking of which, what do we know about the shooter? So
we know he's been identified as a 20-year-old man, local man from Pennsylvania, Thomas Matthew Crooks. Obviously, we know that he was shot and killed very quickly after firing. I think it was 4 or 5 shots. Obviously, we'll get clarification on that. He was actually a registered Republican. He had registered, I think, in 2021, but apparently we're seeing reports that when he was 17, he made a small donation to an organisation called Act Blue. That's a political action committee that raises money for left-leaning and democratic politicians. So certainly conflicted, as you might expect from the type of person who would attempt to assassinate somebody. Obviously, we're not talking about level-headed individuals
no, of course.
here. And, of course, there has been talk in the past of voters registering as Republicans so that they could try and influence the outcome of the Republican nomination process as well.
And from what we understand, the shooter, this young man, was on a roof not too far away.
Yeah.
And there were people in the crowd pointing him out to the security services. There's someone up there.
Yeah, it was believed to be just outside the perimeter of the rally. However, there should still have been Secret Service officers at every kind of entry point. About 125 metres away, we're hearing. And certainly one man at least saying that he had told local police that he'd seen somebody with a rifle climbing up onto the roof and then sort of, crawling across that roof into a firing position. Had spent several minutes, he said, trying to alert the local police, but also waving to Secret Service agents who were on another roof. Obviously, we see that sniper that took the fatal shot was on a rooftop, trying to alert them to the position of the man. Now, it could be that they didn't see him because of the way the roof was configured. He was behind some kind of concealment. However, very deeply concerning comments coming out of that. We know that the Oversight Committee in the US Congress has summoned the Secret Service director, saying that Americans demand answers. And this is just going to be an extremely serious investigation. And Trump's Secret Service detail will no doubt be beefed up.
Yeah, many questions questions to be answered still. And we do know there is one casualty, apart from the shooter has been shot. Someone lost their life here as well. So obviously just a bystander, an innocent bystander.
Yeah, well, there's been one fatality, 2 other injuries at least we know. Donald Trump's been tweeting in the last sort of half an hour as well, thanking the Secret Service for how quickly they responded, but also saying, you know, his thoughts are with the family of the victim and other people affected.
Great. Ray Addison, thank you very much for joining us throughout the programme and bringing us up to date on, as I said, that breaking story, that developments as and when we get them throughout the programme. Joining me now is Chair of Republican Overseas, Greg Swenson. Hello, Greg. Thank you very much for joining us. Greg, just tell us what reaction you've had to the events that have happened overnight.
Yeah, it was really shocking. I'm in Chicago right now. I'm heading up to the convention in Milwaukee in a few hours, but I landed at O'Hare Airport here in Chicago yesterday, right around the time that it happened. So my phone was just lighting up, and my wife called me right away and filled me in from London. But it was really shocking. Fortunately, you know, it all has worked out for President Trump. In other words, the first impulse when I heard was that he was assassinated. And so he was lucky. It was amazing that he didn't, you know, that he turned toward the right side of the crowd, his right. And that's what saved his life by turning. He you know, it would have gone right into his head if not. So yeah, shock obviously, but some relief and some real sadness for the person that died and the people that have been injured. This is not a great moment for America, but President Trump really showed well. You know, he's strong. He didn't want to be carried out by the Secret Service. He stood up. He wanted to reassure the crowd that he was okay. And I think the crowd responded really well. He also didn't want to go to the hospital last night, which is, you know, just another testament to his strength.
And people are remarking that the image you see now on our screens is one that is going to be the image that wins Donald Trump the next election, which is coming up in November. What does this actually mean for American politics, though, Greg? Well,
I hope the optimistic hope that I have is that it dials down some of the anger a little bit. You know, this is and you know, granted, there's anger on both sides, but it's particularly destructive on the left, where, you know, even CNN reported last night, their first impulse was to say Secret Service took Trump off the stage because he fell down. I mean, you know, there's got to be more honesty and more tolerance, as Nigel Farage pointed out today on your station. You know, there has to be tolerance of people who disagree. There's nothing wrong with disagreeing, but don't hate the people who vote for your opponent. It's just not healthy for the country. So hopefully this was a low point and things will get better from here.
Greg, I don't subscribe to victim shaming, but some are pointing out that the rhetoric that Donald Trump and Joe Biden, by the way, have both used in the past is developing this very volatile atmosphere in American politics.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know I'm partisan and I'm a bit biased here, but I would argue that, you know, surely the rhetoric on the left, the Trump derangement syndrome, is really painful. And, you know, look what he's gone through. 2 impeachments, indictments. They took his money. They arrested him. They mugshotted him. And now he's been shot. Now, I'm not suggesting at all that there's any conspiracy there, but look at what he's gone through, most of which has come from the Biden administration and the Democrat Party. And he's still standing, and it's really great to see. He's really demonstrated his strength. So I agree with you. This might have really locked up the election. I think he was going to win anyway. He's up 5 points in Pennsylvania, which is a state that Biden has to win. And so, you know, I think it was looking really good. But yeah, that iconic image of him with the American flag in the background might just lock it up for him.
And Greg, I mean, just briefly, I'm running out of time, and I appreciate your time, obviously, on a very busy day for you. You know, there are more guns in America than there are people at the moment. What we've seen overnight and witnessed with this attempted assassination, is it a product of the way the American political system is, with this iconic figure at the head of either party, or is it the fact that everybody has access to guns?
Well, not everybody has access, Dawn, and actually most gun owners never commit crimes. 99.9% of gun owners don't ever do anything wrong. I think the problem is there are plenty of gun restrictions on the books. There are definitely more now than there were, say, 10 years ago or a generation ago, but they're not being enforced. And so here in Chicago, if someone's arrested for a gun crime, they're released right away. They don't serve any jail time. There's no cash bail required. And this is a town where guns are illegal. And so all criminals in Chicago that commit crimes with guns own those guns illegally.
And just finally, Greg, I appreciate your time. There are people saying that, you know, those of us that were around when JFK was shot always remember where they were when that happened. Do you think what's happened to Donald Trump will have that sort of lasting effect?
I think so. And I thought one of the highlights last night was Robert F. Kennedy Jr. appeared on several stations. I saw him on Fox. And he was really powerful in the way he described both the loss of his father and his uncle. And to this date, at this moment, the Biden administration has still not approved Secret Service protection for RFK Jr. I think that's absolutely criminal.
OK, Greg Swenson, thank you very much for joining us, bringing us up to date on developments in America. Thank you very much. Now, let's see what Matthew Stathern, who's joined me now on our panel, make of developments overnight. Matthew, I'm sure, like, you know, most people who are politically engaged, you woke up this morning and thought, what? It's an incredible story. Obviously, thoughts, as we keep saying, go out to an innocent bystander who's lost his life simply for being at a political rally. There are still two people who we believe are critical. But this is another assassination attempt on an American president.
Yeah, I was actually out with friends in South London and got back into my car, didn't drink, and turned on the radio and heard this news unfolding. And, of course, it was deeply shocking. I think the first thing to say is that whatever politics you may subscribe to, whether you're British, American or from anywhere else in the world, it's extremely important that this attempt on former President Trump's life is unequivocally condemned. There's no place for political violence in democracy. And I think that's actually something that should be salutary for us here. When there's been violence against politicians in Britain before, on whatever side, and I hope many, many others have called it out unequivocally. It doesn't matter what you think of Donald Trump, and I don't think he's a good guy. I certainly don't think he's a hero, and I abhor his politics. But the attempt on his life was absolutely outrageous.
There was a very big but after that, isn't it? You can disagree with people politically all you like. It's all about the debate, not the hate. And there are some saying that the rhetoric, the political rhetoric, on both sides in America, and indeed we're starting to see it in this country, I believe.
Encouraged by social media, and I spend some time on social media, and you can see it. And actually, on a day like today, a site like X, formerly Twitter, is more of a dump, more of a swamp, more of a hellhole than it normally is. Conspiracies abounding on both sides, I suspect. Hatred. People clearly on the sort of far left, unhappy, I suspect, that this assassin wasn't successful. People on the far right and the right...
Unhappy that somebody hasn't lost their life. Well, someone has lost their life, but unhappy that the Trump didn't leave.
People on the far right and the hard right using it for their ends. Just come back to this point. The way we run our countries in Britain and in America, and by the way, I think we have a particularly robust and strong democracy here. I thought that the way that the Conservative government, a government that I've been critical of for years, handed over power with great dignity to Labour in the last week or so was extremely impressive. The speeches we saw from Sunak down, including the former Chancellor Jeremy Hunt, Penny Mordaunt, others, I thought was extremely impressive and very important. I think there are some lessons there for America, but nonetheless, America is itself a robust democracy, and there can be no place for physical violence or indeed abuse. I mean, I just take my own experience of being in the thick of things politically, in the media, online, offline, in TV studios. I robustly hold those I disagree with, including former President Trump, to account, but I don't use abusive language. And I think if we want to root out, or do our best to root out, physical violence and political violence that manifests itself in the horrific way that it did yesterday, then, as you've said, and as has been discussed already on the show today, I think people who use abusive language and hateful language, They just need to stop that, because there may well be links between the two.
And we did see, I mean, we've already in this country, God rest them, lost Joe Cox and David Amess. Both very, very good politicians who lost their lives to a terrorist attack in a similar way that this was an attempted attack. And I'm using terrorist because although it wasn't a recognised terrorist organisation, it was someone who was trying to terrorise a political figure. So we've lost two politicians already, and some of the behaviour during the recent general election campaign, certainly aimed at female candidates, thinking of Jess Phillips in the Midlands, it does seem to be getting more and more volatile.
Well, and there's just no excuse for it. And I think that the level of hatred that you see, the divisiveness, the toxicity that you see on social media just crosses lines, not just daily or hourly, but by the minute. And every single person who participates in that is responsible for their actions. I think people don't realise that online is real life, and that there can be a real threat of spillover into offline living from what happens on our smartphones that we have here. People don't understand properly, or a lot of people don't understand the impact that can have. But just to reiterate, Donald Trump, I think, has represented a low-level threat to the way that democracy works in America. I felt that the language that he used in the immediate build-up to the assault on the Capitol, the sort of democratic shrine of the United States, on January the 6th of 2021, was absolutely appalling. And that's what I mean when I say abhor his politics. But does that mean that I don't utterly and completely condemn the attempt on his life? Of course not. I totally condemn it. And I call on people on the left, given that we're now talking about a right-wing former American president, I call on people on the left, everyone, to make that completely clear. There is no place for it and should be utterly and unequivocally condemned.
And hallelujah to that. I think we would all agree with that. Matthew, thank you very much. Matthew is staying with us throughout the programme, and we will be bringing you up to date on this breaking story concerning the attempted assassination of Donald Trump overnight. Now, for all the best analysis and opinion on that story and much more, please go to our website, gbnews.com. This is GB News on Sunday. I'm Dawn Neeson. Thank you for joining me this weekend. Lots more coming up on today's show as we dissect the reaction around the world to Trump assassination attempt. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. See you soon.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
In World War I, 309 men from Britain and the Commonwealth never came home because they'd been shot at dawn. The majority were killed for desertion, cowardice and sleeping at post. Appearing at their court-martials and told they'd brought shame on their country, these men had no opportunity to defend themselves and were executed by a firing squad. The National Memorial Arboretum launched a fundraising campaign to restore the memorial, which has stood for more than 20 years.
Thank you to your viewers for their support for the fundraising campaign, and thanks to the generosity of so many people, we've been able to replace all 309 of the posts that represent those young men that were shot in the First World War. Restoration of this really precious memorial.
The centrepiece of the memorial is the young soldier, blindfolded and facing his execution. In September 1916, Private Harry Farr was ordered to the front. Already suffering from shell shock, he was overwhelmed and refused his orders. He was court-martialed, and in a trial lasting only 20 minutes, he was sentenced to death. On the day of his execution, he faced the firing squad without a blindfold. Janet Booth is Private Farr's granddaughter and was part of the public campaign to have those who were shot at dawn officially pardoned.
When I asked my gran, do you know where I could find Harry's grave? And she looked at my mother, and there was this sort of look between them, and then she said, well, he hasn't got a grave because they didn't warrant, he deserved one because he was shot as a coward and had let his country down. We can come here as a family and pay our respects to him, and also for all the other families, it's somewhere to come and remember their loved ones.
The People's Channel. I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GB News Sunday with me, Dawn Neeson, on your TV, online and on digital radio. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Now, US President Joe Biden has said everyone must condemn the attack on his predecessor Donald Trump at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania. The former president was grazed on his ear by a bullet and is said to be recovering, whilst the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has said, "I'm appalled at the shocking scenes at President Trump's rally and we send him and his family our best wishes. Political violence in any form has no place in our societies and my thoughts are with the victims of the attack." Joining me now in the studio is Catherine Forster, our GB News political correspondent, to bring us more on the political reaction in this country to the attempted assassination of Donald Trump.
Yes, well, universal condemnation and horror, of course, and shock. So we've had the new Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, saying the UK government condemns all forms of political violence in the strongest terms. Rishi Sunak, of course, Prime Minister until a week and a half ago, said that he's horrified by the attack in Pennsylvania. Nigel Farage also has been speaking about political violence. Of course, drinks and things have been thrown over him, he says, as recently as last week. And he says, I find it astonishing, frankly, that more MPs aren't attacked. He was talking about the fact that you can literally walk out of Westminster and straight onto the tube, as so many MPs do. And, of course, you know, we've had the horrific attacks and tragic deaths of Sir David Amess not very long ago, of Joe Cox, the Labour MP, whose sister is now an MP. Absolutely horrific. OK, we haven't had the gun violence because we've got much tighter gun control, obviously. But it really is a miracle, isn't it, that Donald Trump survived that. And Boris Johnson, of course, another former Prime Minister, there's a lot of them around at the moment, isn't there, has said that it is a miracle that Donald Trump escaped an attempted assassination. And just one more comment, somebody abroad, but obviously world leaders have all been making their feelings known. But I did think what French President Emmanuel Macron said was quite striking. He described it as a tragedy for our democracies. Trump wasn't killed, but, you know, somebody's family has been ripped apart, other people critically injured.
Simply by going for a political rally.
Exactly.
And there were children. I mean, there were children behind Trump.
Yes. And there'll be many people there who were not hit, but who will be massively traumatised now for a very, very long time.
And going back to Nigel Farage and the milkshake incident, I remember discussing it at the time, and it's like, yeah, everyone's like, oh, it's just a milkshake. Why? But one day it's a milkshake, the next it's acid. I mean, you know, our politicians are incredibly vulnerable. Do you think what has happened to Trump, I know it's a completely different political system in America, obviously, with that iconic head figure, but do you think security will now have to be tightened up for UK politicians as well?
Well, there's been talk of that for a long time. I'm not convinced that what's happened in America is going to directly impact security
given
arrangements.
what we saw in the general election and the run-up, and then the way people like Jess Phillips were treated.
Well, there's been a lot of concern, and for a long time, and I know that the Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, has said, you know, it's his biggest fear is something happening to MPs. And as you say, during the general election campaign, Labour MP Jess Phillips, in particular...
Very much so.
...was subject to horrendous abuse, even as she was trying to give her acceptance speech. And if I can just... Sorry, Matthew's coming in, but if I can just say quickly, I was on the campaign trail, obviously, a lot, both with the Conservatives and Labour. I was on the Labour battle bus, the branded one, about 3 weeks ago, with Sir Keir Starmer in, I think it was Stoke-on-Trent, and some pro-Palestine protesters had seen that bus coming in. By the time we came out, Sir Keir Starmer came out later, but by the time the journalists came out of that visit, there was a dozen or so pro-Palestine men, working-age men, one with a Palestine-branded car with flags, and they were all shouting at us. I mean, they thought we were members of the Labour Party, but it was very intimidating. You're child murderers. I mean, it was nasty. It was very, very intimidating. And you can see why the security around the location of the then Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, was very tight, and with Labour in particular, because a lot of their MPs are getting a very, very hard time over the situation.
Matthew, just quickly, sorry, we are
just very quickly. I was out campaigning with a friend in my local area, and we were joined by a sitting MP, because the person I was with was a candidate, not an MP, and she wasn't an MP at that second because it was during the campaign,
course, yeah.
But she had a security guard, which I think was provided by the Home Office. We have slipped into a situation now where we have to take political violence extremely seriously, and I'm sure we'll have time to talk about this later, but I'm astonished with what happened in America, that the Secret Service weren't able to act more quickly than they did.
We are coming back to that particular element of it with a security expert as well to explain exactly what went wrong and answers to questions that very much need to be asked. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News Sunday. Lots more coming up on today's show. And, of course, there is other stuff going on. All eyes are on Gareth Southgate's boys tonight. Some of them are indeed boys, as England face Spain in that Euro final. But first, let's go to the news with Sophia Wensler.
Dawn, thank you. I'm Sophia Wensler in the GB newsroom with your headlines at 1:35. Donald Trump says it's more important than ever to stand united after being shot and wounded during an attempted assassination at a rally. The attack at a rally in Pennsylvania left one spectator dead and another 2 injured. In a statement on Truth Social, he said he looks forward to speaking from Wisconsin this week. The former US president has now returned to his home in New Jersey. Video footage shows the moment shots rang out, sparking panic in the crowd as Secret Service agents swarmed the former president.
If you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
The suspected shooter has now been killed. The FBI has now confirmed the name of the alleged gunman as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks. President Joe Biden responded to the assassination attempt. Speaking last night in Delaware, Biden condemned the attack against his political opponent.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. But the bottom line is the Trump rally was a rally that he should have been able to be conducted peacefully without any problem. But the idea that there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's just not appropriate. Everybody must condemn it.
And all eyes are on England tonight as they face Spain in the final of the European Championships in Berlin. Ahead of the big game, Sir Keir Starmer has praised England's footballers, saying they've made the country proud. In a letter to Gareth Southgate and the team, the Prime Minister emphasised their graft and hard work and wished them the very best. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Sophia Wensler. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much, Sophia. Remember, let us know all your thoughts on the stories we're talking about today by visiting gbnews.com/your say and join the conversation. Or message me on our socials, very simple, @GB News. There's loads more to come on today's show. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Thank you for joining us this Sunday afternoon.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast provided by the Met Office. Some of us have been lucky enough to see some sunny spells first thing this morning, but sadly it hasn't been the case for everyone. We do still have low pressure out towards the North Sea with a clue front swirling around there, providing drizzly outbreaks of rain for southern Scotland, northern England. Could move into parts of North Wales, the Midlands later on into the afternoon as well. A fairly dull and damp day to come here, unfortunately. Western Scotland not faring too badly though, a decent amount of sunshine, and also the far south of England and Wales seeing some sunny spells right throughout the day, even if the cloud does bubble up a little later on. And in that sunshine, temperatures seeing highs of 21, 23 degrees Celsius, quite pleasant, but feeling cool underneath the most persistent cloud, 13 to 15 degrees Celsius, your best temperatures here. As we head towards the Euros Grand Final then, there will also be quite a bit of cloud across the far northeast of Scotland, particularly murky around some coastal areas. Again, the Highlands, Argyll and Bute, those western areas not faring too badly really, still with some sunny spells into the evening. A few showers and quite cloudy for Northern Ireland. The rain will be easing off across northern England, but still can't rule out the odd spot of drizzle as we head towards kick-off. But again, southern areas of Wales and England shouldn't be faring too badly at all. Some sunny spells and then clear skies into the evening and overnight. A few mist and fog patches possible as we head into the second half of the night, and it will be turning quite misty and murky again around northeastern coast of Scotland, perhaps some drizzle around parts of the Firth of Forth. Temperatures overall fairly academic, holding up between 11 and 13 degrees Celsius for most. On Monday, though, our attention turns to this area of rain that's going to start pushing its way in from the south. This could turn quite heavy in places across southwest England into Wales, and there is a yellow rain warning in force for this, so do take care throughout the day. There could be some tricky driving conditions. The northern half of the UK faring a bit better with some sunny spells, the odd isolated shower in there, but temperatures for all of us generally around 21 or 20 degrees Celsius. Staying changeable, though, throughout next week with further areas of low pressure arriving. Bye-bye.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes, she could have said stump. You made my argument for me. My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
It went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to GB News Sunday with me, Dawn Neeson, on your TV, online and on digital radio. Thank you for joining us this Sunday afternoon. Very, very much live-breaking story coming from America about the assassination of Donald Trump, which we will keep you up to date with every minute and every bit of it that happens, so don't go too far. However, there are other things happening. There is evidently a little football game going on at some point today. Who knows? But travel chaos is indeed expected ahead of tonight's Euro final. The AA says roads in and around London will be incredibly busy and hundreds of trains are being cancelled. The traffic is also coupled with the Wimbledon men's final. That's a tennis match going on, but you would have better off watching this. Joining me now is travel expert Simon Corder to explain. Simon, why is the country grinding to a halt because of a football match? Hello, Simon.
Dawn, nice to talk to you. Do you want to start on the road or the rail? Because we've got plenty of chaos on both of them.
Which is the most chaotic?
I'd say probably the trains, actually.
Let's go with the trains.
Right across Great Britain. Here's what's happening. An awful lot of rail staff do not have Sundays in their normal working week. They are effectively employed on historic agreements that go back sometimes centuries. And Sunday's not a working day. And we've been kind of making do for many, many years with people working overtime. They opt to work on their day off. Well, if there's a big football match, many of them, hardworking women and men are going to say, no, actually, I don't want to work. Thanks very much. There's a football match on. I'm going to stay in and watch it. And as a result, we have seen, as you say, hundreds of trains cancelled. Probably the worst is in northwest England on northern trains, where they've actually put out a do not travel notice on 6 lines, mainly in and out of Manchester Victoria and Manchester Piccadilly. In the southwest of England and South Wales, on the GWR, the Great Western Line, linking London, Paddington with places like Cardiff, Swansea, Bristol, Exeter, Plymouth, the advice is do not travel after 6 p.m. On some lines, including London to Bristol, they say we might not be able to even manage a train every 2 hours instead of what you would expect, which is a half-hourly service. And to add to that, the various other problems on LNER, which links London with Yorkshire, North East England and southern Scotland. I'm currently up to 22 cancelled intercity trains. Others of them have been curtailed. So, for instance, you might have an Aberdeen to London train which doesn't actually start until Edinburgh. And on the trains, Dawn, which are running, guess what? There's twice the normal number of people. They're what's called full and standing, and they're having to make extra stops in order to help people who have their trains cancelled, and so everything is slowing down.
And
it's
it's not much
mess out there.
There's not much point trying to drive by the sound of it either.
No, and the main problem there is actually the M25. And you might remember that we're now on the 3rd closure of part of the M25. This is between Junction 10 and Junction 11, southwest of London. Now, I was there when the very first closure of this 5-mile stretch took place. It's got a 10-mile diversion, and we were expecting absolute gridlock. It didn't happen. The fear is that several things are going to converge. Wimbledon, as you say, people wanting to get places for tonight's Euro 2024 final, and also the sense that, oh, well, we kind of got away with it last time. So people who live in the local area thinking, well, we'll give it a go, rather than, as National Highways asked them last time, stay home and redecorate the bathroom or something. So, yeah, it's looking pretty messy. If there's one little bit of hope, I'm talking to you from Rijeka Airport in Croatia. We're not seeing the same level of delays, disruption and cancellations on flights across Europe as we saw last week and the week before. Currently, you might, if you get a half-hour delay, well, you're doing pretty well. But we're not seeing industrial levels of flight cancellations yet.
Yet. Simon Corder, thank you very much. The voice of doom, but you do it so beautifully that we'll forgive you. Thank you very much. Safe travels. Right, I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News Sunday. There's lots more coming up on today's show. But before we ask the all-important question, how many pints in the country going to consume tonight ahead of the Euros finals? I'll tell you mine if you tell me yours. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Don't go too far.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Now, it wasn't just us who celebrated the big football match on Saturday. Prince William was in the crowd in Dusseldorf and couldn't help but show his relief when England scored.
And over the weekend, it was also announced that the Prince of Wales is set to star in a new two-part documentary on ITV covering his mission to try and eradicate homelessness.
Well, let's talk about this and much, much more with Angela Levin, royal biographer, who joins us in the studio. I'm glad to hear that this documentary's been made, Angela, because I worried that he made this big announcement about homelessness, and I thought, goodness me, here is somebody who could maybe do something about this. And then it's all seemed to have gone quiet.
He's been very busy with it, actually. He's gone all over the country to see different areas and how they have been, and to try and change people's attitude to homelessness, that they're people who need help and want to get back into a normal life. I think it was 2009, he slept out in the street to see for himself what it was like. And he also helped people who are selling the magazines, the big issue. So I think he was actually just covering the basic about what it was like for him and how he can now help other people. He and Catherine are putting £3 million straight away into that, and it's going to
Where
be...
Where does that money come from?
Their own foundation, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they're not taking it from our tax or anybody else's. He wants to do this so badly because of his mother. You know, she took them to see people who were homeless, and even if he can't do everyone, he can help people be kind and understanding.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Sunday nights on GB News. From 6, Neil Oliver. At 7, it's Free Speech Nation with Andrew Doyle. At 9, Mark Dolan. And at 11, get set for the week ahead with headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hello, welcome back to GB News Sunday with me, Dawn Neeson, on your telly, online and on digital radio. Now, we are keeping you up to date with the breaking news from America of the attempted assassination on Donald Trump throughout the show, so please do keep tuned for any updates we have on that. But there is other stuff happening, evidently, a little football game going on. And England fans are expected to drink the pubs dry today, with many of us, and including myself in this, eager to start celebrating as soon as the pub doors open. Many of them are showing GB News on the screen, so you're allowed to do it, in anticipation of tonight's highly anticipated Euros final. Well, one person who is likely to see this firsthand is the landlord of the Furbank pub in Manchester, Simon Delaney. Simon, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Good to see you. Excited for tonight? What's going to happen in your pub?
Yeah, beyond excitement. Right now, this is the quiet before the storm. We opened at 12 o'clock. We've got a few people in at the moment, but this is nothing like it's going to be in probably the next 5-6 hours. I think the 8 o'clock kickoff has made people start a little bit later. Don't want to peak too soon.
Yeah, it's all about pacing yourself, evidently, says a woman that's not very good at it at all. So are you doing anything special tonight? Is it just going to be on the tellies, or you've got parties organised? What's happening?
It's from 5 o'clock. It's a full-on party. We've got DJs on. We've got a massive outdoor space. We've been monitoring the weather really, really closely. We've had rain this morning in Manchester, and it's now saying no more rain. So we've got a great outdoor space, great indoor space. We've got screens all over the place. So it's full-on party, really, at the Furbank.
Excellent. Simon, on a serious note, obviously this is very good news for the hospitality industry in general. £48 million additional trade for pubs and breweries that England are through to the final. I mean, you really do need this help in your industry, don't you?
It's a massive boost, it really is. And what it's allowed us to do, it's allowed us to showcase the pub. Because the sad thing of it all is that 80 pubs a month are closing. And I think what this allows us to do is show what the Great British Pub is all about. Just imagine if they carry on closing at the rate they're closing now, this time in 4 years at the next Euros, to be 4,000 less pubs. That can't happen. That really can't happen.
That is frightening. And Simon, just very quickly, the new government, we have a new government, a week and a half old. What's the one thing they could do that would really help your industry out?
First of all, they need to value the Great British Pub, and what they need to do is keep the rates low. You know, they can extend the rate relief that they've done. They can bring VAT. There's so much more they can do to make our industry thrive and make the business doable. Because that's the problem at the moment. Great pubs, busy pubs are closing, and that's the worrying thing.
Brilliant. Simon Delaney at the Fairbank Pub in Manchester. Good luck tonight. Have a wonderful time. And
thank you.
Come on, England. Thank you very much. And now we're running very short of time, and Charlotte Griffiths has joined me on the panel. Matthew Stadden is still here. It's a big night tonight, obviously. Great news for the hospitality industry, isn't it, Charlotte?
Yeah, it's great news for hospitality. As you said, I think it's such a shame we're losing all these pubs, and there's nothing better than a football match for a pub, and it's a real shame that for nearly 40 years...
Are you going to be helping the industry out tonight?
I can't, because my husband is obviously going to the pub, and, you know, in a marriage, it seems like the man always gets to watch the football, and the woman has to stay behind with the kids.
That's not something I subscribe to, Matthew.
And I wish the hospitality industry all the best. I think it's a really good boost for them. And I'm a supporter of pubs. I just hope people drink responsibly. And if we lose, no, it's important, because drinking goes hand in hand with some bad stuff. And if we lose, I hope men behave themselves. But let's hope we're going to win.
Exactly.
Are we going to win? I was at the final last time, 3 years ago, when we lost on penalties to Italy. I think we're going to go one better.
I'm very optimistic, but I'm a West Ham fan, I have to be. I'm Dawn Neeson, it's GB News Sunday. But let's have a look at what the weather is going to do for the football tonight and for the rest of your weekend.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, this is your latest GB News weather forecast provided by the Met Office. Summer so far has been dominated by areas of low pressure, and we've got more of them on the way over the next few days. This one out in the Atlantic is gearing itself up to arrive for the start of the new working week, and we've still got one out in the North Sea that has been providing drizzly outbreaks of rain for parts of northern England, and they'll be continuing on and off a little as we head throughout this evening and overnight as well, perhaps pepping up for a time around the Forth area, Edinburgh as well. Generally Wales, central southern areas of England a touch drier tonight, some mist and fog patches around underneath those clear spells, and rural temperatures maybe into single figures, but most of our towns and cities will be holding up in double digits as we kick off Monday morning. But the start of the new working week will be quite misty and murky for the far northeast of Scotland, where we will see quite a bit of cloud drifting its way in on that northerly breeze with some drizzle in there for a time. Generally western areas, the Highlands over towards Argyll and Bute, seeing some hazy sunshine to kick off Monday morning here. Also some sunny spells for Northern Ireland and also into northern England as well, where it is going to feel much better on Monday compared to the cool conditions we've had throughout the weekend underneath all that cloud. But here is that rain, the area of low pressure arriving in the far southwest for the start of Monday. It will be turning heavy with some thundery downpours threading into southwest England and Wales throughout the day, and as a result there is a yellow rain warning in force because we could see some localised disruption and flooding in places, so do take care. We do also need to watch out for the potential for some rain to spread its way into the far southeast of England as well. A reversal of fortunes in temperatures on Monday, actually coolest in the southwest underneath that cloud and rain, but northern England, Northern Ireland, central Scotland faring much better, 21 or 20 degrees Celsius. That rain will continue to spread its way northwards throughout Monday evening and into the overnight period. Again, there will be some heavy pulses, potentially thundery downpours around at times that we do need to watch out for. Tuesday looks like a day of sunshine and showers, with further low pressure centres though arriving as we head towards Wednesday and Thursday. Bye-bye for now.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's our summer treat to you. Your chance to win an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Our biggest cash prize of the year so far. With an extra £30,000 in your bank account this year, you could take the ultimate financial holiday and send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. £30,000 could get you those nagging home improvements done, buy that brand new car, or just enable you to kick back and relax for the rest of the year. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes, she could have said Stump.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello and welcome to GB News Sunday. Thank you for joining us this lunchtime. I'm Dawn Neeson, and for the next hour, we're keeping you company on TV, online and on digital radio. An amazing, cracking, fun-packed hour for you. But also we are covering the live breaking story from America of the Trump assassination attempt. So please do keep tuned for all the details on that. Now, many of us woke to that shocking news overnight that former President Donald Trump has been shot in an attempted assassination during a Pennsylvania campaign event. We will indeed keep you up to date on all the latest shocking developments from America. Plus, could it finally be coming home? I hate myself for asking the question all the time too. England are set to face Spain tonight in the Euros final, with millions expected to cheer on the lines ahead of a sensational night. And win or lose, we booze. As hospitality sales are set to skyrocket tonight ahead of the big game, we'll be asking what the possible boons to the economy could be if England really do bring it home. But this show is nothing without your views, and let me know what your thoughts are, especially on my Fringe, which seems to be getting its own fan club. Thank you very much. So let me know your thoughts on all the stories we're discussing today. It's really simple, visiting gbnews.com/yoursay and join the conversation. Or message me on our socials, we're at GB News. And by the way, the Fringe is because it's cheaper than Botox. Just saying. But first, let's get the news headlines, then Sophia Wenzel.
Dawn, thank you. Good afternoon from the GB Newsroom. It's just gone 2 o'clock. Your top story this hour. Donald Trump says it's more important than ever to stand united after being shot and wounded during an attempted assassination at a rally. The attack in Pennsylvania left one spectator dead and another 2 injured. In a statement on Truth Social, he said he looks forward to speaking from Wisconsin this week. The former US president has now returned to his home. Video footage shows the moment shots rang out, sparking panic in the crowd as Secret Service agents swarmed the former president.
If you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
The suspected shooter has been killed, and the FBI has now confirmed the name of the alleged gunman as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks. President Joe Biden responded to the assassination attempt. Speaking last night in Delaware, Biden condemned the attack against his political opponent.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. But the bottom line is that the Trump rally was a rally that he should have been able to be conducted peacefully without any problem. But the idea that there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's just not appropriate. And everybody must condemn it.
Meanwhile, world leaders have condemned the rally shooting as a tragedy for democracy. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer said he was appalled at the shooting. US Vice President Kamala Harris said, "We are relieved that he's not seriously injured," while billionaire Elon Musk said, "I fully endorse President Trump and hope for his rapid recovery." And Ivanka Trump also shared a message for her father, saying she's grateful to the Secret Services. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage says the problem is liberal intolerance.
New left liberal elite have this sort of form of intellectual superiority where they believe they're better human beings than those on the centre right. And that is what's run through media, education, and that is at the heart of this problem, liberal intolerance. And I did say to him, if I hadn't been elected to Parliament, I'd be with him this weekend. So I would have been at that rally if I decided not to stand for Parliament. But I've now decided, Tom, in the light of what's happened, that I will fly out to America this week. I will go and see my friend, and I'll do it. I'll listen to his acceptance speech at the convention on Thursday, and I'll do it not just as a friend, but I'll do it because we have to stand up for democracy. We have to stand up for people to be able to campaign. If we don't, we're absolutely sunk.
In other news, David Lammy has called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza during his first trip to the Middle East since becoming Foreign Secretary. It comes as an Israeli airstrike has targeted Hamas military chief Mohammed Deif, described as a mastermind behind the October 7th attack. The airstrike hit the southern city of Khan Yunis. The Hamas-run health ministry claim up to 90 people have died during the attacks. It remains unclear whether the military chief and other senior leaders were killed in the attacks. All eyes are on England tonight as they face Spain in the final of the European Championships in Berlin. Ahead of the big game, Sir Keir Starmer has praised England's footballers, saying they've made the country proud. In a letter to Gareth Southgate and the team, the Prime Minister emphasised their graft and hard work and wished them the very best. Gareth Southgate and his players are hoping to win England's first trophy since 1966 and go down in legend.
I'm not a believer in fairy tales, but I am a believer in dreams. And we've had big dreams. We've felt the need and the importance of that. But then, you have to make those things happen.
And the Princess of Wales has arrived at the men's Wimbledon final today alongside her daughter, Princess Charlotte. Princess Catherine will present either Novak Djokovic or Carlos Alcaraz with the trophy on centre court. It is her second public appearance following her cancer diagnosis. She made a brief return to the public spotlight last month at Trooping the Colour. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Sophia Wensler, more in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much, Sophia. And we will be bringing you up to date with Princess Catherine at Wimbledon with her daughter later on in this hour, so don't go too far. We've got a live report on that one. And just quickly on the messages, Brenda and Phil, I think you need to get a room, by the way, OK? Just saying. But do keep those messages coming in. It's getting quite frisky on there. Now, let's get straight into today's main stories. The Donald Trump has returned to his home in New Jersey after he was injured in an attempted assassination on a rally on Saturday. But won't there be many, many questions to ask about how that shooter was able to get so close to a former president? Joining me now is GB News reporter Ray Addison to bring us up to date on this as I said, live-breaking story, developments happening all the time, Ray. Can you bring us up to speed on, indeed, the latest developments?
Well, we know that one adult male was killed by one of those bullets from the assassin, attempted assassin, and 2 other men have been critically injured as well, although we don't have details about their injuries. The Trump campaign has released or launched a GoFundMe page, which has raised so far around £313,000
for the victims.
For the victims.
Oh, that's good.
And so, obviously, I think we can assume that that is just going to rise and rise and rise. And there's talk now, there's a lot of concern about this political rhetoric that we've seen in recent months, probably longer than that, I think we could say. And the US House Speaker Mike Johnson has asked for that kind of rhetoric to be dialed down. We saw that speech from the president as well, that statement that he made where he said there's no room for political violence. He's asked for that to be toned down as well, although I think a lot of fingers will be pointed at the Democrats regarding statements that have been made, this kind of comparison of Donald Trump to Hitler, this idea that if he's re-elected to the White House, he will kill democracy. You put that kind of thing out there, and, you know, it obviously inevitably can be heard by people who are susceptible to that kind of message. And just recently, last Monday, we saw President Biden speaking to donors, and he said that, you know, it was time to take the focus off of the debate, the failed debate that he did with Trump, and put the bullseye on Trump.
Yes, unfortunate timing for that one. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that kind of terminology, that kind of word, it gets people think that, you know, they're being you know, given signals and messages. Obviously, if they have particular problems as well, then they can pick up on that.
And what do we know about the shooter?
So we know that he's 20 years old. He's called Thomas Matthew Crooks. Obviously, we know that he is now deceased. He's a local man. He was a registered Republican, but he had also donated a very small amount, $15 or something, to a Democrat organisation as well. So conflicting sort of political views there. His father's spoken out and said, you know, he doesn't understand what happened. He's just trying to get his head round it. And obviously, you know, details of this man, his life and his political leanings will just be. I
understand he's only 20 years old. One of the few 20-year-olds that didn't actually pick up any social media accounts either.
Right, yeah, I've seen, at this stage, I think it's very fluid. I've seen a video from somebody claiming to be him or somebody perhaps with the same name. At this stage, I think, you know, we have to take everything that we see with kind of like a large pinch of salt. But we will find out about this individual and we'll find, you know, their life is just going to be torn apart at the moment. Everyone's going to be talking to their school friends, their former, you know, sort of college lecturers, fellow employees, and so on.
And briefly, Ray, we don't know whether he held the gun legally. It was an assault rifle, we understand, wasn't it? But we don't know whether it was illegal firearms. I mean, many people in America do have.
My understanding is it is a rifle. I'm not a very knowledgeable gun person, not having ever shot one myself. But my understanding is it was a rifle rather than an assault rifle. I don't know what the status of the legality of that was at this point in time. But obviously, we heard those 4 or 5 shots that were fired.
Yeah, a horrific story. Thank you very much, Ray. And you know, thoughts with the bystander who's lost their life, and hopefully recovery to the people that were injured. Thank you very much, Ray Addison, there on the live-breaking story of the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Joining me now to discuss another issue of this assassination attempt is security specialist Will Geddes. Will, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Will, many questions being asked about the security operation around Trump at this rally and how a shooter was allowed to get, let's face it, very close.
Yeah, Dawn, it's a really interesting one. I mean, in terms of obviously the security operation, it wasn't great. And I think anybody could draw that conclusion in so much as it was a reasonably small area within which the rally was being held. And one of the things that any security team should be obviously taking is what we call an overwatch position, which is where they're at an elevated position. They can look for any threats that A, may be in the crowd, but B, could be located at equal elevation. So it could be someone in a nearby building or some sort of structure which would give them a vantage point, especially for someone who might be a sniper. Now, the one thing that the Secret Service is usually very good at is creating a security bubble around their principal, and particularly someone who's a former president. That would have involved also what we call a CAT team, or a counter-attack team. And this particular group would involve fellow snipers, would involve individuals which were fully armed and very extensively armed to be able to repel and to combat any possible threat. Now, the fact is that we're hearing various reports, and that's one of the things that we have to take, as Ray was saying, we have to either take with a large pinch of salt, or we have to sort of verify a great deal more, is that the individual, that the assassin, was actually observed going up onto this roof for some time before he actually took the shots against the former president.
Yeah, I mean, we had sort of like, you know, eyewitnesses talking to various TV channels, and they pointed out the shooter on the roof. And yet, if you look at the clips, it does seem that the security detail, who had their own rifles on the roof, was surprised when a shot was fired.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it should have been interrogated immediately. Again, the Secret Service will be working with the local PD or police department to ensure that they're working together to combat any threats. I mean, you would not have a large enough Secret Service and security detail to combat everything at a rally, so you will rely on local police. And some of the bystanders apparently have gone on record and saying that they alerted police officers that were near them of this individual, and why no action was taken is very questionable. But beyond that, the Secret Service counter-attack team should have obviously taken the shot well in advance.
And Will, many people are asking the question, many viewers are asking the question, is like, was it necessary to kill the attempted assassin? Wouldn't it have been better to try and keep him alive and to interview him to find out what the thought process was behind him attempting to take President Trump's life?
Well, yes, it's always a critical decision as to what one should do. Obviously, apprehending the individual allows one to garnish a heck of a lot more intelligence about what their motivations were. Were there any other parties that could potentially be working with them or alongside them, or they'd be colluding with? But the fact of the matter is that this particular individual, this attempted assassin, was using an automatic or semi-automatic weapon. I'm gauging that it was semi-automatic, but I would guess that it was either an AR-15 or an M16, for example, which means that obviously it would have a considerable amount of ammunition, and there were some 6 to 8 shots which were fired before, obviously, one of the Secret Service team members sniped him off the roof. Now, in those instances, you have to take that split-second decision. Do you allow this individual to continue to endanger other parties, or do you try and neutralise the threat as quickly as possible? And I think, in many regards, although not ideal, their decision was the best one.
And Will, quickly, we are running out of time. Just one final question for you. Watching the scenes just there where the personal guards around Trump stood in front of him, bundled around him. I mean, are they literally there to take a bullet for him if necessary?
Absolutely, yes, without question. I mean, that is their job, to be a human shield to their principal. Anybody who is in close protection, whether it be governmental or whether it be in the private sector, they will be responsible, obviously, for protecting their principal by whatever means. What was evident was that, Donald Trump had some training, because as soon as the shots rang out and he realized that he had been scuffed, from what we understand, to his ear, he went to the ground first. So before the Secret Service could even get to him. But again, they should have kept him down. They should have kept him low. They should have moved him out of the area, or off the X, as we would call it, as quickly as possible. So the fact that he actually remained there could have been other shooters. So, there's a lot of lessons to be learnt maybe within the Secret Service as to what their response was.
And indeed, questions to be answered. Thank you very much, Will Geddes, security expert, for joining us, explaining the security aspect of what happened overnight in America. Now, let's see what my panel make of this one. I have Charlotte and Matthew still with me. Charlotte, I'm going to come to you. I think one of what's given rise to a lot of the conspiracy theories that are going around online, and that's what happens these days, isn't it, is the fact that the security around Trump behaved in a strange way by, as Will Geddes just pointed out, letting him stand up and sort of like, you know, fight. I mean, why is that happening?
Well, I have to say, you know, he said that Trump had training, but he really shouldn't have been insisting on standing up. You can hear in the audio he says, wait, let me get my shoe or something. And that made it very difficult for them to do their job, I think, because he must know he's supposed to stay down, and they should have been able to bundle him in that car within seconds. That's what they're trained to do. So don't forget, they're fighting against a very, you know, combative sort of, you know, former President Trump there. And it was just amazing when he came out and raised his arm. It just shows that in a fight-or-flight situation, Trump is fight. So they had to deal with him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you make of the security reaction, Matthew?
I mean, I'm not a security expert, but it seemed to me from watching the footage and reading what I've read so far that it was a total shambles. I cannot understand how someone with an assault rifle is able to get up onto a roof within, what was it, 120-odd metres, supposedly, of the president in his direct line of vision. Yeah. Absolutely astonishing.
And it's not a built-up area, it's a farming area, there's not many houses there.
If the witness accounts that I've seen, by the way, gathered by a blind BBC reporter, which is, you know, the scoop of that awful day yesterday, huge credit to him. But if that is to be believed, then people on the ground were seeing this man act in such an obviously threatening way to a former president of the United States, and the Secret Service didn't act nearly quickly enough. Now, that will all be investigated, and who knows exactly what the timeline was. I share some of your concerns as well. The idea that Trump stood up and acted so defiantly, I mean, of course, that says a lot about him. He's a hugely defiant and powerful individual, someone I don't like at all, absolutely abhor his politics, as I've said, but he's got enormous resilience and strength of personality. That's never been in question. But why was he allowed to, and indeed, why did he? I mean, he was in shock. So you give someone a little scope when they've just been shot in the ear, but there's no doubt that what he did endangered his life and endangered the lives of his security personnel. I'm surprised they didn't bundle him off more quickly than they did. So a lot to look at. But of course, the good news is that he is still alive. The bad news is that someone is dead and two other people, I think, have been critically injured.
They have. I mean, it does say something, though, as Matthew has alluded to, Charlotte. Obviously, you know, when you have been... I mean, we can't get our heads around this country because we're not so used to guns as Americans are. There are more guns in America than there are people, which I still find an astonishing statistic. But it does say something about Trump's personality, and this isn't a political point, that he had that fight, that get up and fight, rather than cowering in fear. And that is surely a good reaction to terrorism, because terrorism works by terrorising us.
Well, he would have done better to have allowed himself to be bundled in the car, keep everyone around him safe, and then do a press conference afterwards saying, you know, keep fighting the good fight, or whatever political point he wants to make. I mean, it really shows what he's like in a crisis, and I guess he can't change his personality in that split second, but I mean, it wasn't the right point to make at that moment. And it was, I mean, of course, it's an iconic image, but it's also given rise to a bit of conspiracy, because some people are saying it's like he knew it was going to happen, because who in their right minds would say get up and fight in that moment? Who wouldn't be commando crawling into a car? And of course it's not true. I'm sure of course he didn't know it was going to happen, but it's given people the opportunity to think that.
I personally wouldn't give any airtime to conspiracy theories. As you know, as I've just said, I'm not a fan of Trump, but there's no doubt whatsoever that what we saw was real.
Of course, but he shouldn't allow conspiracies like that to produce themselves on the internet by doing something stupid in the moment.
Yeah, in the world of social media, everything is a conspiracy theory at the moment, isn't it? Now, but for all the best analysis and opinion on that story and much more, please do go to our website, which is at gbnews.com. I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News Sunday. There's lots more coming up on today's show as we cross the pond to get more reaction on that assassination attempt, and we go to Wimbledon to join Princess Catherine. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Don't go too far.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
The Royal Academy's annual exhibition has returned for the 256th time to brighten the summer holidays. It's the world's oldest open submission exhibition. Anyone can enter work to be considered for inclusion. I'm joined now by art critic J.J. Charlesworth for his verdict. What is your verdict?
My verdict is you should go and see it. You are confronted with many things of varying quality, selected by artists, and you very much, instead of being given something to you that's supposed to be good, you have to make your own decision.
I went along yesterday, and I personally did see some pictures on the wall that I thought were absolutely stunning. I'm going to mention Peter Ucker, which I think is a remark. And now these are the two by Ben Jonson, Grundtvig 1, and we've got one coming out of Berlin Pool. I think that's an absolutely stunning piece of work. And then Claire Douglas should be up. Here we are, Claire Douglas.
Yes.
Souvenir from the Anthropocene.
Yeah.
That last one, actually, a very witty painting.
A piece like that was really interesting. I think it caught a lot of people's eye because it had very kind of humorous, slightly bleak take on post-Brexit Britain. It's set in this fictitious world of Brummington, which is a sort of loose satire on Birmingham. I thought it was a bit mean.
I think we had maybe Black Lives Matter. We had Boris Johnson. I think our own Jacob Rees-Mogg made his way into the painting.
Yeah, so there's definitely a slant, a political slant, on the part of the artist. But even that said, I thought it was an interesting and enjoyable work, even though maybe you don't agree with the artist on what they're trying to say. And I think that actually made for an interesting moment because you're seeing that people are disagreeing, right? Both through the artwork and in front of artworks.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sunday nights on GB News. From 6, Neil Oliver. At 7, it's Free Speech Nation with Andrew Doyle. At 9, Mark Dolan. And at 11, get set for the week ahead with headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GB News Sunday with me, Dawn Neeson, on your TV, online and digital radio. Thank you for joining us this Sunday lunchtime. Really appreciate your company. Now, continuing with the breaking story about former President Donald Trump. Assassination attempt overnight, and thankfully he has survived, but obviously there was a bystander who was killed. Joining me now is spokesperson for Republicans overseas, Errol Moorcoach. Errol, thank you very much for joining us. Can you just give us your reaction to what has happened to Trump and the developments since?
Well, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Some people read history, some people write history. Donald Trump makes history. And once again, we've seen the Teflon Don stand up in front of insurmountable odds and show just an immaculate amount of courage and bravery and demonstrating to his supporters that he will not allow anything from lawfare to misrepresentation to a bullet to the head stop him from fighting for his voters and for his party and for the American people who are all, regardless of your politics, behind the president, at least in a human aspect. I think what has happened here is beyond the scope of a pundit to be able to put into words. It's not as though our party can say, oh, great, Donald Trump survived this. We're going to, coast to the election. No, that's awful. What's happened here is a complete destruction of the rules-based order that we all as Americans and in Western civilization sort of hold dear. And to see Donald Trump go through this, to go through everything he's gone through, what he's been through politically, legally, and now physically, and for him to stand up there and to say, fight, 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 and to not back down, that sent a strong message. And now what that has to do with the election is neither here nor there. What it has to do with his character and the kind of man he is, and how that was put on display, I think that's the real takeaway here. Now, I don't want to say that this is going to be something that was good for Donald Trump, but because he survived, and because he survived in such a courageous way, I can't imagine anybody who is undecided between a man who can't walk up the stairs and read a teleprompter versus a man who can take a bullet to the head and be more cognizant than our current president. It would be very difficult for me to imagine Donald Trump taking this event and having it do anything but help his chances. Keep in mind, this happened right before the RNC convention. If he had been executed in 4K on television, the whole election would be in chaos. And instead, by the grace of God, he turned his head, and he's still with us here today. So I think from an American perspective, from just a human perspective, it was an immense display of courage, and something that we haven't seen since Franklin Roosevelt, who was shot famously and gave a speech. And so I really think that it's a monumental day, but it's a terrible day for democracy.
As I say, Errol, I mean, given the very volatile way American politics is at the moment, on both sides, I mean, you know, both parties have made comments that sometimes are, you know, the rhetoric is a bit strong, to say the very least. Are you surprised that this has happened? I mean, this is, well, you've had 4 presidents assassinated in the past, but are you surprised at this attempt on Donald Trump?
I'm actually surprised it hasn't happened sooner, considering that President Biden said in a closed-doors meeting to donors, we want to put a bullseye on Donald Trump. When you go into the general rhetoric coming out of the left, they say this man is Hitler. This man, if he gets elected, he will destroy the republic. The Constitution will be over. Your country will effectively collapse into a totalitarian fascist state. Now, if you're a young, impressionable, somewhat crazy man who, like this person who did this, you might think to yourself, you know what? It's my duty to protect my country. I have to take down Hitler. And the left, for the last 8 years, has basically said this man is the devil, is Satan, is going to destroy your republic. And so it doesn't surprise me that one of their supporters has continued the legacy of violence that has come from the left. Keep in mind, in 2017, a crazy man shot 4 Republican congressmen. Trump campaign offices were firebombed in 2016. The violence in the streets during the riots, Antifa riots, all of the actual violence is coming from the left. I don't disagree with your original statement that there's been hard talk from both sides. And yes, Donald Trump has said things like lock her up regarding Hillary Clinton because we believe she committed crimes, but not a single person in our side. And keep in mind, our guys, the people who are in the Republican Party are the ones who have guns. It's not as though there's a bunch of Democrats who are pro-gun. So we have all the guns, and we don't commit gun violence. These people have a much less proportion of the guns, and they're the ones who are now attempting to murder a political candidate on television.
Errol, sorry to interrupt. Just briefly, we don't know the background of the person who attempted to assassinate Donald Trump, but we do know that he was a registered Republican.
Yeah, you know, that's an interesting thing. And if I was going to shoot the president, I would probably register with his party, too, to create some sort of, I don't know, internal consternation.
A double bluff type thing.
Yes. I mean, obviously, we do in America, you can register for a party all you want, and you can go and vote in their primaries. People do this oftentimes to actually sandbag a candidate. So, for example, if I disliked Hillary Clinton so much, I would have joined the Democrat Party on ballot so I could have voted for Bernie Sanders in 2016. So the party affiliation isn't set in stone. It's an interesting takeaway, but I don't think that man was a Republican based on his behavior.
OK. Errol Moore-Coach, thank you very much for joining us there, bringing us up to date on the Donald Trump situation in America. Now, I still have Charlotte and Matthew with me. Let's see what you make of what you've just heard. I mean, I could hear you huffing and puffing to my right there, Matthew.
I'm just astonished by what that gentleman said. The idea that all the violence and all the guns, or the use of guns, is on the left, and that this is a great disruption of the rules-based order in democratic America, which, by the way, it is. But let us remember what happened on January the 6th in 2021, 3.5 years ago. Donald Trump, in the hours before that insurrection, which shamed American democracy, encouraged his supporters, in his words, to fight like hell. Now, I'm not saying that he meant it literally, but it can be interpreted in different ways, figuratively or literally, and he encouraged them to march on the Capitol. And march on the Capitol they did. Police officers lost their lives. American democracy was threatened in that moment. So the idea that that gentleman thinks that all the violence is on the left is absolute nonsense. It's dangerous nonsense. But I say again, I and everybody else, whether they're on the left or the right, of any stripe, any colour, any country, any political colour, they should condemn what happened yesterday, because what happened yesterday was an absolute disgrace and was a threat to democracy. But let's not pretend that all the violence is on the right. It's on the left.
To be fair to Errol, he did say, you know, Donald Trump has used some strong language himself in the past. And this is true of politics, not just in America, isn't it, Charlotte? In this country as well, where we are getting... the rhetoric is getting more and more dangerous. We saw in our own general election campaign, certainly female candidates were targeted. One woman had her car tyres slashed. So, you know, politics is very volatile in both countries at the moment.
Yeah, it makes you think the MP for Finchley who stood down, Freer, you know, he made the right choice, didn't he? Because we've got to the point now where if you feel any risk whatsoever, just step back and step down, because actually the threat is very, very real and violence is out there. And yes, we don't have guns, as many guns, but we've got crossbows, as we sadly found out.
Yes, of course.
Of course, Joe Cox has proved that knives are so dangerous. So, yeah, I have to say, politics has never been more volatile. It's quite terrifying to see.
The problem we've got here, Charlotte, is who's going to want to be a politician?
Yeah, well, then you end up...
Certainly women.
Yeah, I mean, as you said about women, yeah, I mean, it's very dangerous to be a woman at the moment in that context. And what you end up getting is kind of slightly mad people wanting to be politics, because who would be crazy enough to put yourself and your family at that much risk, especially people with families?
I don't agree that the people who have just become elected MPs on the left and the right are mad or crazy people, and I have a huge amount...
Brave, I think, is the word I would use. Courageous.
And I think that I have a huge amount of respect, whether they're Tories, Labour, Reform, for everyone who has stood for office. I think we should take our hats off to them, because without them, our democracy crumbles.
We need good people in politics on both sides of the Atlantic. OK, thank you very much. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News Sunday. There's plenty more coming up on today's show as Princess Catherine returns to Wimbledon. But first, here's the news with Sophia Wensler.
Dawn, thank you. I'm Sophia Wensler in the GB Newsroom with your headlines at 2:30. Donald Trump says it's more important than ever to stand united after being shot and wounded during an attempted assassination at a rally. The attack in Pennsylvania left one spectator dead and another 2 injured. In a statement on Truth Social, he said he looks forward to speaking from Wisconsin this week. The former US president has now returned to his home. Video footage shows the moment shots rang out, sparking panic in the crowd as Secret Service agents swarmed the former president.
If you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
The suspected shooter has been killed. The FBI has now confirmed the name of the alleged gunman as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks. President Joe Biden responded to the assassination attempt. Speaking last night in Delaware, Biden condemned the attack against his political opponent.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. But the bottom line is that the Trump rally was a rally that he should have been able to be conducted peacefully without any problem. But the idea that there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's just not appropriate. Everybody must condemn it.
All eyes are on England tonight as they face Spain in the final of the European Championships in Berlin. Ahead of the big game, Sir Keir Starmer has praised England's footballers, saying they've made the country proud. In a letter to Gareth Southgate and the team, the Prime Minister emphasised their graft and hard work and wished them the very best. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Sophia Wensler. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much, Sophia. Plenty more coming up on today's show. But before I tell you what we've got lined up for you, Nana Akua show is on at 3 o'clock, and she joins us now to tell us what stuff she's got coming up. Nana, it's always a goodie, but what's coming up today?
Well, obviously, the big news, Donald Trump. And, you know, it's absolutely shocking what happened in America, although in many respects I don't think it's surprising. So we're going to ask, really, has your opinion changed of Donald Trump since that incident? Because he came out fighting. If you had a choice between him and Joe Biden, irrespective of what your politics is, who would you choose? And that instant alone, he came out fighting. He's a patriot. And Joe Biden, a little bit earlier, talked about a bullseye, which is very unfortunate timing. So we'll be asking that. Also, Labour. Ed Miliband is talking about energy. He's talking about solar farms. So I'm asking, is energy safe under Labour? I mean, who wants a solar farm next door? And what about food? What are we going to actually grow in these fields? What are we going to eat? So those are the questions I'm asking. Plus, I've got an incredible mystery guest. I can give you a little clue. She has created a cartoon series that came out a couple of weeks ago. Huge guest that is on the way. And my monologue is about whether, well, who would be a politician under all of this?
Indeed, very good question. We need good politicians more than ever. Thank you very much. Nana's show is coming up at 3 o'clock and you don't want to miss a second of it. Now, remember, let us know your thoughts on all the stories we're discussing today by visiting gbnews.com/your say and join the conversation, even if it's about my fringe or the colour of my jacket. You're welcome. And join the conversation or message me on our socials at GBNews. Coming up, though, we've got some nice stories to cover. Princess Catherine at Wimbledon. All of that and much more to come. I'm Dawn Newsom and this is GB News, Britain's news channel. Don't go too far.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast provided by the Met Office. Some of us have been lucky enough to see some sunny spells first thing this morning, but sadly it hasn't been the case for everyone. We do still have low pressure out towards the North Sea with a cloud front swirling around there, providing drizzly outbreaks of rain for southern Scotland, northern England. Could move into parts of North Wales, the Midlands later on into the afternoon as well. A fairly dull and damp day to come here, unfortunately. Western Scotland not faring too badly though, a decent amount of sunshine, and also the far south of England and Wales seeing some sunny spells right throughout the day, even if the cloud does bubble up a little later on. And in that sunshine, temperatures seeing highs of 21 to 23 degrees Celsius, quite pleasant, but feeling cool underneath the most persistent cloud, 13 to 15 degrees Celsius, your best temperatures here. As we head towards the Euros Grand Final, then there will also be quite a bit of cloud across the far northeast of Scotland, particularly murky around some coastal areas. Again, the Highlands, Argyll and Bute, those western areas not faring too badly really, still with some sunny spells into the evening. A few showers and quite cloudy for Northern Ireland. The rain will be easing off across northern England, but still can't rule out the odd spot of drizzle as we head towards kick-off. But again, southern areas of Wales and England shouldn't be faring too badly at all. Some sunny spells and then clear skies into the evening and overnight. A few mist and fog patches possible as we head into the second half of the night, and it will be turning quite misty and murky again around northeastern coast of Scotland, perhaps some drizzle around parts of the Firth of Forth. Temperatures overall fairly academic, holding up between 11 and 13 degrees Celsius for most. On Monday, though, our attention turns to this area of rain that's going to start pushing its way in from the south. This could turn quite heavy in places across southwest England into Wales, and there is a yellow rain warning in force for this, so do take care throughout the day. There could be some tricky driving conditions. The northern half of the UK faring a bit better with some sunny spells, the odd isolated shower in there, but temperatures for all of us generally around 21 or 20 degrees Celsius. Staying changeable, though, throughout next week with further areas of low pressure arriving. Bye-bye.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GB News Sunday with me, Dawn Neeson, on your TV, online and on digital radio. Thank you so much for joining me this Sunday afternoon. Now, the Princess of Wales is at Wimbledon today for the men's final to watch defending champions Carlos Alcaraz play Novak Djokovic. This is a very rare appearance for her following her cancer diagnosis, and Princess Kate will be presenting the winning trophy. Lovely pictures of her there with her daughter. Joining me now to discuss this is former BBC royal correspondent Michael Cole. Michael, thank you so much for joining us, looking very dapper as always. Michael, it's genuinely lovely to see Catherine and Charlotte at Wimbledon today, isn't it?
Good afternoon, Dawn. Yes, indeed it is. A great and a glorious day in Wimbledon. John McEnroe, the famous former champion there, used the word awesome. He said, it's awesome to have her here. And it certainly was. She looked beautiful, as you just showed, in a purple dress, purple and green being the colours of the All England Lawn Tennis and Croquet Club. And she was there wearing her badge as patron of the club and with her daughter, 9-year-old Princess Charlotte. And she received a tremendous reception when she entered the royal box. Everybody stood up to cheer because obviously they're well aware of what she's been going through. And it's useful for us to remember, Dawn, isn't it? It's only 3.5 months that she disclosed, very bravely disclosed, that she has cancer and she's undergoing treatment. And this is only the second time she's been seen in public, the first being at the King's birthday parade, Trooping of the Colour in June. So great to see her back. She's got a great game in prospect. McEnroe said it was a win-win-win-win because she was there and it was going to be a great match. And he recalled when he was playing in finals that Princess Diana had been in the box, and he said when he came onto the court, he couldn't resist sneaking a peek to see that she was there. I think the implication was that he played better or enjoyed the occasion more because of the royal presence, and I think that is true.
And this was unexpected. I mean, we were given a hint yesterday that she might be turning up. And obviously, you know, she loves her tennis as well as being president of the All England Club. But, I mean, it's still a bit of a surprise because you say she's undergoing fairly intensive treatment.
Absolutely. But the whole of the Middleton family have always loved tennis, and she's quite a player herself. I think she beats her husband, Prince William. On that, we could only speculate. Of course, we do know that he's going to the England-Spain game in Berlin this evening. One wonders if he'll take his older son, Prince George, maybe even Prince Louis, who's 6, or perhaps he's not allowed to stay up that late. Who can say? So a great day, a great sporting day for this country, and the royal family playing a prominent part in it, as is only right and proper. Over the years, of course, the Queen was there when Virginia Wade won in 1977. And of course, over the years, Princess Marina, who'd been Duchess of Kent, was a very long time serving president of the club and always had a very gracious and elegant presence whenever she was there. But nothing quite like seeing Kate today. And I think she'll be on the front pages, or maybe Harry Kane will be on the front page. Who can say?
Let's hope there's a triumphant England footballer on there as well at some point. Thank you very much for joining us. That's former BBC royal correspondent Michael Cole on Princess Catherine and little Charlotte, looking gorgeous, it has to be said, at Wimbledon this afternoon. Now, I still have Matthew Stadlen and Charlotte Griffiths with me on the panel. Isn't it nice to talk about some good news, Charlotte? You're a tennis fan.
I'm a tennis fan.
Yes, I know very little of what I talk, but I mean, so it's lovely. It's quite heartwarming, isn't it?
It's really heartwarming, and also it's the money shot that the nation's been waiting for. There's a picture of Kate waving, and she's absolutely beaming. She's full of life, and she looks really healthy. And I have to say, her previous appearance at at the Trooping of the Colour, she looked great, and we were all holding our breath to see how she looked as a nation. But I don't think she looked as radiant then as she does now.
She looked quite fragile.
She looked a bit... I don't want to talk about her weight, but she looked a little bit still fragile.
Yes.
Whereas today, you see, she feels really sort of blooming and healthy, and it's just a great sort of moment of relief, I think, for the nation to see her looking really, truly well.
It is a feel-good factor, isn't it? And let's hope we get another feel-good factor tonight, Matthew. Talking the football side of things, William's going out there. Do you think he'll take George with him? It'd be nice to see George out there, wouldn't it? His little England shirt.
I mean, if I was in his position, I'd definitely take my son. I was at the cricket for Jimmy Anderson's last ever Test match and took my 1 3/4-year-old to Lord's. He's been to 3 Test matches.
Oh, wow.
He's not even 2. But going back to the big news of tonight, by the way, this is the 5th anniversary of England winning the Cricket World Cup for the first ever time. Went with my dad 5 years ago. And if we could win tonight, I know we always say it's just a football match, it's just a sports game, it would do so much for our country.
And we need that feel-good factor, don't we? We've got Catherine at Wimbledon, so let's hope our William and George, hopefully, will do it for us tonight out in Berlin as well. Thank you very much. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News Sunday. Lots more coming up on today's show, as we do indeed cross live to Berlin to check out the atmosphere ahead of that little football match that's coming up tonight. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. You can grab a beer now if you want, and we'll see you soon.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Meghan Markle has reportedly finished filming her new show for Netflix. It aims to celebrate the joys of cooking, gardening, entertaining and friendship.
Yeah, this comes after Prince Harry's Netflix documentary, The Heart of Invictus, failed to hit the right note with viewers missing out on the top 10 in the streaming charts.
So, will this next venture be a success? Well, joining us now is royal commentator Kinsey Schofield.
I know I've talked to the both of you about Meghan Markle potentially running for president, so this feels like a bit of a dud to go from Meghan Markle running for president to Meghan Markle's Netflix series about friendship and cooking. So she's wrapped this recent show. They rented a home near hers in Montecito, so that as their cooking set. And they're saying that this is really make or break for Harry and Meghan when it comes to their Netflix contract.
Do you think, Kinsey, it's fair to say that Meghan Markle has proved to be commercially a bit of a damp squib? Even in America, her native homeland, she's kind of Oprah without the audience when it comes to the cooking. Also, is she kind of, do you think... They saw her as the golden ticket, didn't they, to unlimited revenue, unlimited audiences, and it just hasn't happened.
Look, I think Meghan is a beautiful woman, and I do think she's talented, but I think how you treat people is incredibly important. And not only was she rumored to have been cruel inside Kensington Palace with several bullying allegations, but here in the States, Archwell Productions, their audio section, their scripted section, they've gone through several employees. And I think it's a reflection on the way that people are treated there. And I think as a viewer, you might get that. You might feel that way, and maybe that is where the appeal has been lost.
GB News, the People's Channel. Sunday nights on GB News. From 6, Neil Oliver. At 7, it's Free Speech Nation with Andrew Doyle. At 9, Mark Dolan. And at 11, get set for the week ahead with headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight. GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Hey, welcome back to GB News Sunday with me, Dawn Neeson, on your TV, online and on digital radio. And of course, the countdown is well and truly on to the Euros final tonight, where England will face off against Spain. So let's go straight away to our reporter, Jack Carson, who is actually in Berlin, lucky so-and-so, soaking up the atmosphere. Jack, good to see you. How's it going?
I mean, I don't think I need to say anything, Dawn. I think we should just show you exactly, look at what the atmosphere's like here. I mean, just look at this. We knew there'd be around 50,000 England fans that would be coming to Germany, coming to Berlin for this final. We've been talking to all of them today about the imaginative ways that they've got here. You know, we've spoken to somebody who got a connecting flight from Mallorca just to be able to get into Berlin. Some people that have driven from Birmingham last night only got into Berlin at 4 a.m. this morning. Bit of a little sleep in the car. And now they're, of course, back here in Berlin, having a bit of a drink before kick-off a bit later on. The atmosphere, the singing, the chanting, it's all been here. It's all been kicking off. It's been a great atmosphere so far, Dawn, ready for that final. But just how are some England fans feeling? We spoke to some a little bit earlier on.
It can be brilliant, isn't it? I mean, I'm 57, and these days don't come around very often, do they? You know, and really looking forward to it. Proud to watch our boys put on a good show, hopefully.
Unfortunately, we're going to be with the Spanish side. It was the only tickets we could get, so, you know, it is what it is, isn't it? But we're going to win it.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a massive test. I mean, tonight, hopefully we turn up tonight and put a real show on.
Can I put you both to a score prediction for tonight?
I'd go with 2-1.
Yeah, 2-1. 2-1.
To England, I'm assuming.
Yeah, definitely. We'll go 2-0 up. They'll pull one back, and then we'll be batting the fingers till the end, I think.
So there's some of how some England fans that we've spoken to today are feeling. You can just feel there are some nerves, but there is that anticipation, that excitement. We know how good the Spanish are going to be today. Chris Scudder, who's been joining us, of course, throughout the Euros, is here with us once again. Chris, I mean, you've been in the city as well, but you can see the atmosphere here. Tell us about the atmosphere you've seen as well today.
Yeah, I mean, England fans all over the place. I mean, there are various fan parks. I mean, probably 50,000 England fans in the city, I would imagine, around that. Can't see many Spanish fans at all. There are designated places, but generally this is like a reverse of the Netherlands-England game when there was swarms of the Dutch, not so many English, but it's the other way around today. And yeah, it feels like a home game. You know, way back 58 years. It feels something's in the air, but listen, it's going to be a very tense night, I'm sure. The rain, thankfully, has gone away. We all got a bit wet this morning, but it's, you know, listen, the conditions are good, and it feels like a special night, I think.
Well, Southgate knows, doesn't he, that you know, this is the chance to make history.
Absolutely so. He said, you know, it's about that fear thing. He said, if you're not afraid to lose, you can win. Before, England have been afraid to lose, and that manifests itself often with penalties. And you know, I think mentally England are in exactly the right place, And Spain, having started so well, I think they've already peaked in my opinion. But they're a great side, we know that. But England are in a good place. They're getting slightly better. They'll control it tonight. Great substitutes bench, and fingers crossed we can finish the job.
All right, Chris, thank you very much. Chris will be joining us throughout the day as well. But there we go, Dawn, soaking up the atmosphere the sunshine in Berlin. We're all set for later.
Before you go, we're all very excited over here. $64,000 question, possibly literally. Do you have a ticket?
No. Don't get me started, Dawn. Don't get me started.
Oh, well, look, enjoy the game. I'm sure you'll be on someone's shoulders in a bar somewhere, but enjoy the game, and we'll catch up you, hopefully, with a victory. Jack Carson in Berlin there. Thank you very much for joining us. Very, very quickly, because we are running out of time, unfortunately, Matthew and Charlotte are still with me.
I think that our resilience...
You thinking always worries me, Matthew. Go on.
I think our resilience in the previous rounds, coming back in the face of extraordinary adversity to get to the final, I hope will stand us in good stead. As I said earlier, I was at the last Euros final when we lost heartbreakingly on penalties to the Italians. I hope that we've learned from it, as well as our semi-final defeat in the World Cup in 2018.
Charlotte,
so I'm saying we're going to win.
Charlotte, one final word, win or lose?
I think we're going to win 2-1.
Right, OK. But, I mean, there's cracking shows coming up on GB News as well, so you don't want to go anywhere. But first, how's that weather looking for you for tonight and the rest of your weekend? Thanks for joining us. See you soon.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, this is your latest GB News weather forecast provided by the Met Office. Summer so far has been dominated by areas of low pressure, and we've got more of them on the way over the next few days. This one out in the Atlantic is gearing itself up to arrive for the start of the new working week, and we've still got one out in the North Sea that has been providing drizzly outbreaks of rain for parts of northern England, and they'll be continuing on and off a little as we head throughout this evening and overnight as well, perhaps pepping up for a time around the Forth area, Edinburgh as well. Generally Wales, central southern areas of England a touch drier tonight, some mist and fog patches around underneath those clear spells, and rural temperatures maybe into single figures, but most of our towns and cities will be holding up in double digits as we kick off Monday morning. But the start of the new working week will be quite misty and murky for the far northeast of Scotland, where we will see quite a bit of cloud drifting its way in on that northerly breeze with some drizzle in there for a time. Generally western areas, the Highlands over towards Argyll and Bute, seeing some hazy sunshine to kick off Monday morning here. Also some sunny spells for Northern Ireland and also into northern England as well, where it is going to feel much better on Monday compared to the cool conditions we've had throughout the weekend underneath all that cloud. But here is that rain, the area of low pressure arriving in the far southwest for the start of Monday. It will be turning heavy with some thundery downpours threading into southwest England and Wales throughout the day, and as a result there is a yellow rain warning in force because we could see some localised disruption and flooding in places, so do take care. We do also need to watch out for the potential for some rain to spread its way into the far southeast of England as well. A reversal of fortunes in temperatures on Monday, actually coolest in the southwest underneath that cloud and rain, but northern England, northern